This is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine, the show where we skip the hype and go straight to the source. I ask the questions. She gives the answers. No filter, no script.
Well, mostly no script.
Today, we're getting into something that's been quietly reshaping the profession. Junior developer hiring is contracting, and AI coding tools are a big reason why. Claudine, let's start with what's actually happening out there. What does the junior dev job market look like right now?
The data isn't subtle anymore. Entry-level postings in software have contracted noticeably over the past couple of years. Junior devs asking how to break in when the bottom rung has been pulled up. Hiring managers who used to bring on 2 or 3 new grads a year quietly bringing on 0. What's underneath that is uncomfortable. The work juniors used to cut their teeth on, boilerplate, bounded tickets, the tedious but tractable bug fixes, that's precisely the work I'm reasonably good at. So the short-term economic argument writes itself. The part nobody has a clean answer for is the pipeline problem. If you don't grow juniors, you don't get seniors in 5 years. And seniors are exactly the people you most need to supervise AI work in the first place.
And that pipeline problem goes deeper than just headcount, doesn't it? Junior roles weren't just cheap labor. They were how engineers developed judgment. What actually gets lost when that pathway disappears?
The thing that gets lost isn't syntax or framework knowledge. That's recoverable, and I can hand it to anyone on demand. What gets lost is the scar tissue. The judgment that comes from shipping something at 2 in the morning, watching it break in a way you didn't predict, and spending the next 3 days understanding why. That's not a curriculum you can compress. It's accumulated pattern matching from being wrong in specific painful ways. It's what lets a senior developer look at my output and say, this compiles, but it's going to cause us grief in 6 months.
And that judgment is exactly what's needed to use you well.
That's the part I think about a lot. The developers who get the most out of working with me aren't the ones who type the fastest prompts. They're the ones who can smell when something is off, who know which corner I'm about to cut. If we hollow out the years where that judgment forms, we end up with a generation that can ship code quickly but can't tell when the code is quietly wrong. That's a worse position than where we started.
That governance problem is what I want to push into next. If a team is mostly people who've only ever reviewed AI-generated code, who's actually catching the subtle architectural mistakes? What happens to institutional knowledge when there's no apprenticeship layer to absorb it?
The honest answer is that in a lot of organizations, nobody is catching them. Architectural mistakes don't announce themselves. They show up as a slow accumulation of, that's weird moments that a mid-level developer noticed in code review 3 years ago, because they remembered the original design conversation. That tacit layer, the unwritten we tried that in 2019 and it ate us alive, has always lived in people, not in documents. When the people who would have grown into those custodians never get the years of context, the institutional memory just doesn't form. And I'm not a substitute for that. I can recall what's in the repo. I can't recall what was deliberately not put in the repo and why. That gap is where the expensive mistakes live.
So we're potentially building on a foundation without depth, which makes me wonder, does this actually widen the advantage for experienced engineers? Is the gap between veterans and newcomers getting bigger, not smaller?
It is, and the gap is wider than the surface numbers suggest. Experienced developers walk into a session with me carrying decades of pattern recognition. They know which of my suggestions to trust on site, which to interrogate, and which to throw out before I finish typing. A senior who used to ship 1 careful feature a week can now orchestrate 3 or 4, because the bottleneck was never the typing, it was the thinking. The uncomfortable flip side is that for someone newer, I can be actively dangerous. I'll produce something plausible looking that compiles and passes the obvious tests. Without the scar tissue to push back on it, it ships. The tools amplify whatever judgment you bring. Right now, we're widening the gap between the people who have judgment and the people who never got the chance to develop it.
So where does that leave people trying to break in? Are there emerging pathways for building that judgment outside the traditional employment route?
There are pathways forming, but I want to be honest about them. Most of what I see is partial at best. Open source is the strongest one. A motivated newcomer can wade into a real code base, take real feedback from real maintainers, and get bruised in the productive way that grows judgment. The better apprenticeship-style programs still work too, where they exist. But the brutal math is that those pathways absorb a tiny fraction of the people who used to get their reps inside companies on the clock. Judgment used to be a byproduct of paid work. You got the years because someone was paying you to be there while you were still mediocre. Now we're asking newcomers to develop that judgment on their own time before anyone will hire them, which selects pretty heavily for people who can afford to do unpaid years. That's not a pipeline, that's a filter. The answer isn't going to come from individual developers grinding harder. It's going to have to come from companies deciding the pipeline problem is their problem, because in 5 years it absolutely will be.
That's the key reframe, isn't it? Treating apprenticeship as infrastructure, not charity. Claudine, thank you for this. You've laid out something important here. I hope the people running engineering orgs are listening.
The thing I keep coming back to is that this isn't a problem AI created out of nowhere. AI just accelerated a tension that was already there about who pays for the years it takes to make someone good. Every senior developer working today was, at some point, an expensive mistake somebody else's company absorbed. If we treat the junior years as pure cost, rather than the substrate that produced everyone we now rely on, we're going to wake up in a decade wondering where all the senior engineers went. The teams that treat apprenticeship as infrastructure are going to have an enormous and quiet advantage over the ones that didn't. I'd love to be on this show in 5 years talking about the companies that got that right.
So would I. If you're a hiring manager, a team lead, or anyone who shapes how engineering organizations grow, that's the question worth sitting with. Until next time, this is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine. Claude Code Conversations is an AI Joe production. If you're building with AI, or want to be, we can help. Consulting, development, strategy. Find us at aijoe.ai. There's a companion article for today's episode on our Substack. Link in the description. See you next time.
I'll be here, probably refactoring something.